Today on the Wireless Guru channel, Android, iOS, or Apple. Which one should you buy? Which one should you prefer? Today on the Wireless Guru channel. How's everybody doing? Welcome to the Wireless Guru channel. Today we're going to do a little tech review. We're going to try to answer the age-old problem, or I don't know, problem or dilemma, however you want to call it, or the question is, what's better, iOS or Android? Today we're going to talk about the operating systems, not necessarily the handsets themselves, because obviously Apple has two versions and then Android's got multiple versions out there. And when you talk about form factor is just relative to the person who's actually using the phone. Let's talk about the operating system, how it works, and so forth, and who wins on all these categories. So let's talk about affordability. Affordability, you know, Apple, or I'm going to refer to it as iOS, basically relatively expensive phones, two versions that are, you know, currently out there today. Pay anywhere from, you know, $400, $500 to $900, maybe even a little bit more. For the device if you buy the extra large. And then Android, you have, you know, like the Samsung Note or the Galaxy 8, 9. You have your flagship models, but there are many lower tier phones that are available in the US, and then unlocked phones internationally. So from a pricing perspective, you can get an Android device significantly cheaper than you can an iOS device. So if you're looking for a cost-conscious device, Android is probably the better best, or better bet. And so from an affordability standpoint, I think the check has to go to Android. Let's talk about apps. Naturally, you have a smartphone, you want to use a lot of apps. So who wins? Android has a whopping 3.5 million plus apps in their store today. And Apple just has 2.2 million apps in their store today. But this is probably a situation that more is not necessarily better. There is a lot of games and things like that that iOS has in their store that have never made it to Android. And using both of these devices for probably a year to a year and a half, I would say that there's probably more quality applications on iOS than there is Android. Android seems to have a lot of developers that are a little bit lacking in skill, so to speak. First-time developers are usually developing in the Android marketplace, where Apple has a little bit more checks and balances to get applications into their marketplace. So I would think that the check mark here would have to go to iOS because of quality and the availability of a lot of gaming apps and so forth that Android does not have. But you know, there's not a huge difference in the two. but we will give it to Apple or iOS. Customability. Basically the interface that you get with Apple is the interface that you get with Apple. Yes, you can change the lock screen, you change the background screen, change a little bit of how the icons are, but there's not a lot of changes of the look and feel of the screens or the operating system. However, on Android, there's a lot of options. You can download different launchers, and you still have the same ability to download a lock screen and obviously a background screen. You have the ability to do live screens as well, if you're not caring about battery life so much. So the tick here pretty much has to go to Android in that respect. So let's talk about maps. In the beginning, iOS had a lot of difficulty with their maps. They just weren't mature as an application yet, but they've made a lot of inroads to have a fairly good mapping program. And then you look at Google Maps, which is a very mature application. It works extremely well, and probably used by a lot more people worldwide than the iOS maps. And so I would think at this point, from a feature standpoint, that the Google Maps in Android is a far superior mapping program on the device. So really the checkbox for this goes to Android. Let's look at cloud storage. Both devices you can do cloud storage. I think that the cloud storage on the iPhone is a little bit more expensive than on an Android phone, and with Android you get a lot more free space on Google Drive than you do get with iCloud. So given that, and then that you can use Google Drive on both devices with no problem, but you can't use iOS on an Android or iCloud on a Android phone. So because of that, and Google Drive is pretty much a standard on the Google or the Android operating system, a slight edge on Android on that particular item. So check mark to Android on that. Security. Both phones at this point use very, very similar ways to get into the phone. You can enter in a code, you can enter in your fingerprint, you can do face recognition, and so forth. However, on the iOS side, their security mechanisms are a lot more robust, much more difficult to break into the phone. I do like the speed, especially when you use the fingerprint method of getting in, how quickly it reads your fingerprint and opens up the device. It flies, and it's very intuitive. It's in a good place on the phone, and it opens the phone very, very fast, and it's very intuitive to use that to get into banking functions and things of that nature. On the Android side, face recognition, I still, it doesn't work as well as you would wanted it to. It doesn't sometimes, it's not very fast, doesn't work in low light. If you are if you set it up not wearing glasses and you're wearing it just does not seem to have the security around it as iOS. And then the fingerprint. The fingerprint readers on the back of the phone. So when the phone is facing you and you're putting your finger back there, it's really difficult to tell if your finger is on the right piece, because you're not seeing on the right part of the reader. So for that, it takes longer to get into the phone because you're moving your finger around until it finally reads it. Where iOS, you're looking right at the reader. You put your thumb on it, done. I mean, in seconds you're into the phone. So for those reasons, I think iOS is security is significantly better. It's a lot less problematic and quicker to get in the phone. Let's talk about entertainment. With smartphones, one of the large functions is our media. What do we do? How do we consume our media? And with iOS, you have a very good companion program in iTunes to be able to load music, save music, your podcast, your movies. It's very easy, very intuitive for anyone to figure out how to use it very, very quickly. And then you go over the Android. There's there's really nothing there that's intuitive to get music that you own back and forth off of the device. If there is, I haven't found it, and it's not very intuitive to use it. That's the problem. And but it's still, the screen quality on both devices are really good. They both stream very, very well with Netflix apps and YouTube and so forth. But I would say that the iOS device does better when you own the content and you want to leave that content on the device and you want to carry your content with you. I just think it operates significantly smoother than Android. So let's talk about the other side of the phone. Actually, people want to do things with their phone. They want content, they want music, movies, and so forth. But how about the phone as a phone? There was a time that people would pick up the phone and they would call people and they would text and so forth and so on, and you wanted a phone that actually did that and did that consistently. So that's compared to two. Now, when I compared both of these phones, I'm looking at, I've owned them and upgraded their operating system for probably a year and a half. I've tested them basically inches apart from each other on the same wireless network, same plans, everything. They both have exactly the same ability to connect to a network. So in doing that, let's talk about RF to the mobile network. And keep in mind, folks, when you look at a handset and you look at the bars on the handset, that has nothing really to do with signal strength. The manufacturers of the phone can fiddle with that meter any way that they want to make their phone look like it performs better. There's no standard for how that meter is supposed to work. So the only thing you can really go by is can I make a call or can I not make a call, or what is the quality of the call, so forth and so on. So I would say from connecting to the mobile network, that hands down Android is significantly better than iOS is. In every situation, that's from talking, from texting, from speed of the network when it does connect. It seems to work significantly better. And then on the Wi-Fi side, the Android device connects faster. You don't have any errors when you do try to connect to a new network. And again, it seems much faster. So I would say the complete RF of the iOS device is basically under the Android device. And if you want a strong phone, and phone is important to you, Android is head and shoulders above Apple or iOS when it comes to performing the functions that a phone should function. So again, which one do you pick? It's hard to say that any blanket statement is right for everybody. Everybody wants their phone for something slightly different. I mean, if you never go out into fringe areas and have poor coverage, you're always in big cities and so forth, then RF is not that important, because both phones are going to operate pretty much the same. So you have to decide which is more important, RF and using my phone as a phone and texting and connecting and so forth, or the better applications in the media and handling your media and saving your media and moving your media on and off the device and backing it up. Is that more important? Because that's going to determine which device suits you. I don't think anyone can go out there and say this is the best phone or this is the best operating system. It's the same thing of saying this is the best network. Well, it might be the best network where you're standing, but where somebody else is standing, it might not be a very good network. So with that being said, figure out what you want in the phone, and know that if you have to have a phone, it has to have great RF. You're always in areas that have poor coverage and you need Wi-Fi and things of that nature. Android's probably going to be a better pick for you, and then you can get by on the media side. But if it's not that important, then the iOS device is significantly better with media and things like that. And it's the operating system and so forth is a little bit more intuitive to folks. Because the one thing that's a little bit aggravating, and hello Google, hello Android, is that you kind of equate that operating system to like Windows. About the time you get used to how everything is and where it is and so forth, they decide, hey, it's upgraded for no unknown reason, and then things change, and things are in different areas, and it just doesn't quite operate the same. With Apple, that same basic structure has been there without significant changes for a long time. And once you've learned it once, you don't have to go back and relearn where everything is most of the time. They just keep layering on features to what they've already built. So if you are one of these folks that don't like change and don't like relearning things or trying to find things after your phone upgrades and so forth, then stick with iOS, because it's going to stay relatively consistent. But you have to make that decision on your own. I mean, I cannot make a blanket decision for everyone out there. You have to choose what's important. And again, just to kind of draw a conclusion here, if you care about the consistency and always want that operating system to look and feel the same, that's iOS, not Android. If you need a phone for a phone and you need a good phone, the best phone is definitely Android. And then if you want the better phone for media and backing up and being able to buy things and get it on the device very easy, then that's iOS as well. So I hope this kind of helps and clears things up. If you have questions, please type them below. My email addresses will be at the end of the video. I'd be more than happy to answer any question that anyone has in regards to handsets. So that's it for today. Have a great week, and we will talk to you later.